Welcome to the first episode of the 2016 season of X's and Omar. This is year 6 for the show.
6.
One more year than Ryan Tannehill has had with Miami, and we are getting ready for the dress rehearsal in Orlando, the third preseason game as the Dolphins take on the Falcons. And we are just 2 weeks away from the real season starting as the Dolphins head out to Seattle to take on Russell Wilson and the Legion of Boom? Legion of Boom.
Legion of, I thought it was Legion of
Doom? Well, you wrote down Legion of Dome. I know that's not right. I'm pretty sure it's Legion of Boom, which is closer. Of course, Omar Kelly, Sun Sentinel Dolphins columnist,
Here
X's
for
and
my
Omar.
10th season of covering the Dolphins. Can you believe it? It's been a decade of mediocrity for me.
I've had a few less years of mediocrity. My name is Matt Lincoln. I'm the sports director at CBS 12 in Palm Beach and the Treasure Coast. So we're going to take all your questions, a lot of them that Omar has had online and on Twitter using the hashtag XOmar. We're going to break down the start of the season and what we've seen through 2 preseason games.
Don't forget training camp.
And training camp.
Training camp, to me, you know, what we see at practice, you've been out there.
Sure.
It usually translates to the game.
Yeah.
A guy who does well at practice usually translates and plays well at the game. There are rare exceptions when guys step up and play much better at practice. So we've seen 3 weeks of practice. We've seen 2 exhibition games. Thursday's another one. This is going to be a long season.
Okay, let's talk about those preseason games. What have you seen that has stood out in the win over the Giants and what Adam Gase called a drumming at the hands of the Cowboys?
You know, the first game against the Giants, what really surprised me is I thought that there was more depth than I initially expected from the Dolphins. They came from behind and pulled off that impressive victory, got 4 turnovers from the defense. We're talking about pressure from the backups like Chris McCain, sacks caused by Walt Aikens. They put the offense in situations to score points and score easy, you know, to cut off half the field so they didn't have to drive the length of the field. That gives you a chance to win in the NFL. Usually the teams that are on the positive side of the turnover margin, they win games. What I didn't like was I didn't see an offensive line that could protect Ryan Tannehill, an offensive line that made him comfortable. Now, that got addressed in Game 2, or at least we think it got addressed in Game 3. Let me point out, even though Laramie Tunsil and Jermon Bushrod were inserted into the starting lineup, and Ryan Tannehill seemingly had a tremendous amount of time to work in the pocket, let's also be realistic and make sure everybody knows that Dallas probably has the worst defensive line in the NFL.
Missing guys to suspensions and everything.
Missing guys to suspension, just tons of hodgepodge, just garbage on their defensive line. So that can explain why there was no pass rushing. But the one thing that I walked away from the Dallas game with a little bit of a concern is, where's the running game? Didn't you say that you were going to work on the run game in the exhibition season? And it's not here yet.
No, and it certainly did not look good with Arian Foster. 2 slow rushes hitting the backfield.
You know what? I'm not too nervous about Arian Foster right now, primarily because I've heard that he's a player who paces himself. Also, I've heard that he's a player who it takes time for him to get up to, you know, work his way up into regular season form. Am I ready to say he's going to be a starter? Am I ready to tell you to put him on your fantasy football team? Sure. No.
Okay.
But I've seen him practice a lot harder this week than I have seen him practice before. And it could be just a veteran. The season's 2 weeks away. Time for me to get my act together.
What else impressive players from the first 2 games?
To me, Chris McCain. You know how I feel about Chris McCain.
Sure, you love Chris McCain.
I love Chris McCain and what he brings to the table as a pass rusher. Now, can Chris McCain set the edge? Can he give you what you need on special teams? I'm not certain about that. But pass rushers, guys who can get to the quarterback 1 out of every 4 snaps, those guys are pretty hard to find. And Chris McCain has something special to him as a pass rusher. We saw that in Game 1. We did not see that in Game 2 because he got 8 snaps. He got injured. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Chris McCain because he's definitely one of those guys on the bubble in terms of whether or not he makes a 53-man roster. I liked what I saw from Bobby McCain in Game 1, not necessarily what I liked in Game 2. Hopefully he adds up and becomes a little bit more consistent. That's really the issue with young players. Can they bring consistency? Definitely liked what I saw from Jakeem Grant in Game 1 as a returner and as a receiver. As you followed me and you know, I'm not a huge Jakeem Grant fan because the kid catches horribly. He catches about 50% of his passes in practice. But as long as it translates to the game and you're a reliable player and you're not dropping punts and you're not dropping receptions, 2 thumbs up.
Talking about catching balls, 2 touchdowns for Kenny Stills.
Yeah, you know what? I was having this discussion with my partner Chris Perkins during locker room yesterday, and I was like, I think we should write something about Kenny Stills. 2 touchdowns is kind of big, especially for him considering the spot he's in. But here's the thing that really woke me up, that what Chris Perkins said. He's a veteran. This is his 4th year in the NFL. His 3rd year as a starter. He should be scoring touchdowns. This offense should be scoring touchdowns. And why, if it was a rookie, then maybe we should write about it.
I just think if you look at the weapons that the Dolphins have, Stills is at the bottom of the guys that you get excited about, I think, because of what Devontae Parker, what people are hoping potentially brings. Jarvis Landry owns the Dolphins single-season catch record.
No. He owns the NFL catch record for most receptions in his first 2 years.
Well, he owns that as well.
Yes.
So is Stills a guy who, if he also raises that level, are we talking about 3 great weapons from the receiving corps?
Well, that's great is a little bit of a stretch. We're not at great.
Okay.
Look, Jarvis is borderline great. Everybody else is pretty decent.
Okay.
But yeah, they've got 3 good receivers. I think there are only 2 units on this team that have depth to them. That's defensive end and wide receiver. Everything else is just a hodgepodge of mess.
Through 2 preseason games, what is sounding the alarm right now for you?
To me, it starts with the trenches. Can you run the ball? Can you stop the run? I'm an old school football kind of guy. I believe in trench play. I watch trench play. I love trench play. And to me, the Dolphins, where it started and ended last year with the Dolphins, is they couldn't run the ball consistently and they couldn't stop the run. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And it's very disappointing to see that, considering you spent a lot of money this offseason. You made a lot of additions. Mario Williams, wide 9 defense, Vance Joseph, Kiko Alonso, bigger cornerbacks, Issa Abdul-Qaddus. You did a lot on defense. Still can't stop the run.
Still can't stop the run. Well,
and
but
that's
also
2 exhibition games.
Yeah, but still, I mean, Cowboys might have the best running game in all of football. Let's take our first Twitter question.
Let's not pretend like they had starters there.
Okay, you're right. Let's take a question from Nate. How has this team improved when compared to last year, and why? Do we know that yet?
I think the team is better coached from the top, Adam Gase, and I heard something today that really made me think. They can't blame you for being, if you're yourself, they can't say, hey, you're not authentic, or at least you're a bad version of yourself. And I think that that's what you're getting from Adam Gase right now. He is a really likable coach from a player standpoint, from a media standpoint. And now Dan Campbell was likable too. The question is, can Adam Gase coach better than Dan Campbell could coach?
Well, we don't know that yet.
We don't know that.
But it seems like I would bet yes.
If he can fix the quarterback and get this offense to score 24 points, half the battle is won.
Oh, good. Let's talk about the quarterback real quick.
Oh,
we got
really?
A Twitter question from Randy who asks, with decent protection in the Dallas game, Ryan Tannehill's accuracy seemed much improved. Does this mean he can take the next step?
We've been waiting for the next step for 4 years. I am not confident in what I've seen from Ryan Tannehill. I probably will never be confident in what I see from Ryan Tannehill until he leads the Dolphins to a playoff victory. What you see from Ryan Tannehill on a consistent basis is he's up here, and then he's down here. One game he's up here, one game he's down here. One game he's up here, one game he's down here. When it adds up, you're the 18th best quarterback in the NFL, which is where I ranked him in a Sun Sentinel poll. He has to get to the point where you produce consistent play. And most importantly, you produce consistent play on 3rd downs, in the 4th quarter, and in the red zone. The money areas, the money time, clutch performances. He is not a clutch performer. And if you can get him to play at a level where he is being clutch and more consistent, I think you got a chance.
Yeah, I mean, any Tannehill fan who really backs him, you got to, think about how many games, because it didn't happen at all last year, that he led the Dolphins to a win late in the game. Just hasn't happened.
It's happened earlier in his career, but it certainly, last year the defense didn't even put them in position to win games. And the offense certainly didn't help as well.
Sure.
You can't score 19 points and think you're going to win in the NFL.
All right, let's move on and talk a little bit more about the coaching staff, because that's really what we've seen here over the past few months. After Dave Wannstedt, we have seen a carousel of bad coaches run through South Florida. And now we have Adam Gase, who, yes, he's the youngest head coach in the NFL. He's never coached an NFL game. He's going to try to call plays and be the head coach at the same time. A lot on his plate. What have we learned about the Nick Saban protege so far?
I think he has got the right personality. Players are responding to him. I think he's an upfront and confident guy, a tinge of arrogance to him. I think he's direct. I think all of those things make, he's relatable. He understands what his players need. He doesn't really push them tremendously hard during practice. I think he reminds me a little bit of a combination of Tony Sparano, Dan Campbell, and it's kind of gives you that old school feel to it. Now the question is, can you coach? Can you outsmart Bill Belichick? Can you make the necessary adjustments that you need in order to outthink Bill Belichick and throw something at him that he's got to spend the next quarter figuring out? That's the question. Can you respond to adversity? Can you respond to losses? And when your team's down and depressed and they're in a funk and you need to pick them up, that's your job, Adam Gase. You got to pick them up off the floor. And right now, everything is great. Everything's all gravy. But he hasn't lost a game. Not a game that matters. Ask me about Adam Gase when he's lost 3 straight games, because it will happen.
And he's been all those things that you said about him is what we have seen in the press setting when he's in open practices and at press conferences. What have players told you? Do they say that he is the same way in meetings and in behind closed doors?
Likeable guy, has a way to relate to every player, and that's different. You can't just like Joe Philbin used to do. One cookie cutter approach. Everybody's got to fit in the cookie cutter approach. If you don't fit in, you got to go.
Right.
Adam Gase finds a way to relate to every player. Some players need a kick in the backside. Some players need a pat on the back. Some players need you to coddle them and stroke them.
Some players need all of that.
Yeah, some players need all of that. And some players need you to give them a give and take. He figures that out. He knows. He caters to everybody. And players say that it's very easy to coach. It's very easy to learn from his coaching. The question is, will all this learning produce execution? And, to me, I've got a magic number. Offense needs to score 24 points. You score 24 points, I think you're going to have a chance to produce a winning season, be in the playoffs. The problem that you have is this offense, Bill Lazor, they scored 24 points under Bill Lazor. I think you can win with 24 points if your defense isn't garbage, which, jury's still out.
Jury's still out.